about this love, about this, about this love, about this love, love. How you guys doing today? You are tuning into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale, and my wife, Charel. On this week's podcast, we're going to just continue on the conversation from last week. So for those who tuned in, as always, you can find our podcast everywhere where podcasts can be ingested. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And again, let's get back into it from last week. Hope you enjoy.
So, like, what are your motives? Like, why do you want to be with a person? Like, you have to actually sit and think, like, is it because you're lonely? Do y'all have kids together? So you guys should just might as well be in a committed relationship. Is it because you want to combine finances? Or is that your heart's desire for, like, companionship for marriage? Because, were you going to say something?
You know, like me personally, like I've always been a big skeptic of people. It's interesting because I was thinking about my a friend of mine when he had introduced me to his cousin like years ago, and I mean maybe he introduced us so we can date, but we never ended up dating. But we did become good friends, and I remember we had actually met in person. And she was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. And I was like, yeah, everybody's a Christian. Everybody's a Christian, you know? And she kind of looked at me like that's kind of harsh. And I'm like, well, I mean, am I lying? You know, Rick Ross is a Christian. You know, Tupac was a Christian. You know, Bama's gangbangers on the block blowing Bama's heads off. You know, they Christians. It's like everybody.
Why? Because they wear a cross,
everybody's a Christian. You know what I'm saying? So, but my point in kind of saying that is that like I'm just skeptic of people. I'm a big skeptic of everything, people in general. You know, and it's not saying that I don't give people a fair opportunity or a fair assessment or whatever because I do. Oftentimes to my own detriment. But when it comes to like relationships, motives, it's like oftentimes people just don't want to be real. They don't want to just be like, hey, look, I just want them draws, you know, and that's really all I want. I don't want a relationship. That's all I want. Or the chick, like, you know, I just want financial stability. You know what I'm saying? And a nice car to drive you from point A to B, and you have that, and so I want to be with you. Like,
I want a couple of trips and you know what I'm saying? Some nice photographs.
But just being honest, you know, off the rip. But people, they have and love to play mind games, and just the world is just so full of games. People just playing games. And it's like, man, I thank God I'm married because even before I met my wife, I didn't have the patience to really date. And I never really dated, you know. I mean, I've been in the DMV, DC, Virginia, Maryland area for like, almost 10 years. I probably did like one person, you know.
Well,
I mean, I just don't have the patience I'm sorry, I cut you off, but I just don't have the patience to entertain mind games or waste years of my life, you know, with this person and that person and that person and this person and this person. I mean, look, man, I don't have time to waste, man. I'm sorry. You know, I can't get my time back. I don't have time to waste with people, so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, you know. You were just talking about playing mind games. The one thing I noticed, like, and I've probably mentioned this story several times on this podcast before, but it was this Christian guy. So it's funny you say, like, yeah, everybody Christian. And I told you about him because I think it was the same year I met you.
Me, my mama.
Oh, Lord, stop it. But no, so, like, you know, it was this guy. He said he was a Christian. I believe he went to church and he read the Bible and loved the Lord. So, like, I'm not negating that. But the driving point for me to end that relationship and actually get honest with him, like, and I had a client of mine who, she was like a big sister to me. And I was telling her about this guy. Yeah, you know, he's a Christian. He wanted me to meet his mother, blah, 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 blah. But in my mind, in my heart, I did not feel like I was worthy enough to really be my true self around him. And so I lied to him and I was just kind of like, yeah, you know, I'm a Christian too, because I knew I was on my way to like getting serious with someone, but I was doing it all wrong. I was still, you know, lying to him. I was still making stuff up. I wasn't telling him like the full truth. And not that he even cared, but the Lord quickly showed me. I don't even think that relationship lasted like a month. The Lord quickly showed me that this is not how I want you to do things. This is not how it's done. You know, because I was like, oh, well, like, where's this going? And once I asked that, you know, where is it going? Because my sister client, you know, she was like, no, in order to know if you're going to be serious with this guy, I don't think you should waste any more time. And I think you really should ask him, like, how does he see you? Like, because it seems like you're taking this pretty serious, but if you don't ask, you would never know how he feels about the relationship and how he feels about you. And I was so afraid because I'm like, I mean, we feeling, I feel like this is getting serious. I'm assuming he would feel the same way as well. But then once I asked him, he was talking about puppets with no strings, like no strings attached. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm not a puppet. And secondly, like, Lord, I went about it all the wrong way. And for real, if we're honest, I couldn't have expected that to end up in a successful relationship because I had been lying the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that oftentimes when people get into relationships with people, or when they are about to enter into one, like when I feel like if you're meeting somebody and y'all have like one or two dates or three dates, I feel like at that point it's probably it's very appropriate to start asking questions like, hey, well, what are your plans? What are your long term plans? For being in a relationship or being, commitment. What are your plans? And because, from there you can begin to gauge if you should continue to go on dates with the person. If they're just like, oh, I'm just, looking for somebody, I can just play with right now. I mean, they being honest. I mean, shoot, I'm not mad at nobody for being honest. You know what I'm saying? People probably aren't this blunt and they probably won't say things like that, but oftentimes when you ask people questions, you can also listen for what they're not saying.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to
So
say.
if you're asking people questions, in the process of going on dates and they're answering your questions, you can also gauge the situation by what they're not saying, because here's the thing about it. When someone doesn't really have anything to hide, they're very upfront about things and situations. And, I just got a relationship, with my wife, or just got a divorce, whatever. But just being upfront about it so that maybe the person may realize, oh, there may be some type of emotional healing that needs to take place there. So maybe I shouldn't engage myself in this relationship, right now, because it might not be good. Or maybe I should just probably pursue a friendship with this person. Oh, whatever the case may be. Like, oftentimes people don't realize, like, getting out of one relationship and jumping into a new one, I don't think that's ever a good idea. That's never a good idea. When you're speaking with somebody, whether it's a man or a woman, and you realize that that's kind of what's going on, you might want to proceed with caution, or just proceed very slowly.
Absolutely. Definitely being intentional. So that's another point on our list of like reasons why your relationships are failing. Just intentionality. Like, where do they see themselves in the next 5 months or even 5 years? And do they see themselves with you or in a relationship with you? And, like you said earlier, Dale, like there should come a point in your dating where you guys are around each other that you stop and ask that, where you kind of can gauge like, okay, let me just stop and start asking these important questions because it seems like we're getting pretty serious and I want to know for sure where we are going.
Just going back to foundations and motives, like, why do you want to be with the person? Is it for companionship, marriage? You don't want to be alone. Is it because you guys have children together? Like, is that really the reason for the relationship? And again, it's sad because people fail to really be upfront about these things, and sometimes, to be honest, like, people get to relationships and they don't even know. They're just winging it. It's like trying to swim, or at the beach trying to build a sandcastle. They're just winging it, and that's never the posture or never the place that you want to find yourself in any relationship.
Where you're winging it.
Yeah. Oh, disclaimer: we do have our baby daughter in the studio with us, so if you hear her back there grunting, just dismiss that.
I mean, that's the reality of marriage, and when you're building a relationship and you guys get married and have kids or don't have kids, you might have a little dog running in the background, and you're like, sit down back there, quiet down in the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with what you said. I believe that, you should really take the time to, like, and I want to close up with, I think you should take the time to sit and ask these questions with the person that you're pursuing. And remember that you cannot avoid going through hardship. You can avoid how you get through the hardship.
Or how you respond to it.
Yes, and how you respond to it. Did I just say you can avoid how to get through the hardship? You can't.
Nah, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, that doesn't sound right. But no, it just kind of sounded a little off, just being honest. It sounded off. But like how you get through that hardship. One thing that we did this past week, and I'm just going to, say it really quickly because I said we were wrapping up, was we went to a conference about the rites of passage of manhood and believe.
Adulthood as well.
Oh, adulthood, yes. And so basically, I mean, it was a beautiful conference, and I really enjoyed myself. And Dale, you enjoyed yourself too. I think it was like really good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't want to speak for you. What it made me realize is just that, even as far as adulthood, we've gotten into adulthood winging it. And it's like, back in the day, and even in certain tribes and areas, people have walked these children into adulthood. And it's almost like, who's walking you into a marriage that, essentially you're spending the rest of your life with these people. So, what I've realized after having our daughter is that we are actually raising her to go and essentially be out in the world and go be in relationships with other people, and we're being mindful of that while we're raising her. But not a lot of people had that consideration from their parents, and even if they did, their parents probably didn't even know how to, the tools to give them. And so, that's the reason why we are, doing this, why we're talking about this, why we even started about this love, because it's like we hadn't been given the tools, but, the Lord blessed us and placed us in a place where we can glean from others who have been through it and who are willing to give us the tools to have a successful relationship, which in turn blossom into a successful marriage.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel like oftentimes when believers date, they try to date from the perspective of the way that somebody who is a non-believer would date. And I feel like all throughout Scripture, there is proper context and proper illustrations that displays how a person should date. He was like, well, those were the old days, man. We ain't there no more. It's like, well, yeah, maybe if you follow the scriptures, you wouldn't be John and Harry wouldn't be, in your bedroom naked, every other night. I'm not saying that as a form of judgment. I'm just saying, like, when you say things like that, like, yeah, that's true. The time frame is different, but the principles of the scriptures don't change. The principles that God had given Adam, Eve, and now giving, Dale and Charel don't change. The year changed, the environment changed,
Yeah.
the way that they live life, changed. Me and Sherelle ain't got no knife and no bow and arrow, killing no goats and stuff.
We're not riding
in the back,
a mule
to
the grocery store.
You got a horse and buggy, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, the time frame did change, but I feel like oftentimes people just don't have the patience and the endurance to really be in a relationship and to start a relationship. The foundation of every relationship should be patience and time and the willingness to endure to see what the person is about. Because me personally, I would much rather spend 5-6 months to a year and a half getting to know a person before I decide to engage them in a relationship versus spending like 5-6 years with them and then we break up for whatever reason. I feel like oftentimes we break up on the back end because we don't put the work in the front end, which is beginning to set the foundation. So we end up having to kind of go back and be like, well, I thought I loved you, but I don't. Deuces, I'm gone. So I just feel like, just the reason for the podcast, in addition to what my wife said, is really to help people understand and give people, the God knowledge and God advice. And not all of it is God. Some of it, a lot of it is also our opinion as well. But because God influences my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as I'm not out here telling you to marry 4 or 5 women and be with 4 or 5 guys, I feel like a lot of the things that we're saying, are pretty truthful and come from biblical truths. So the idea and intention is to help promote good relationships and to help promote healthy ways to start investing in relationships and how to go about doing that. And just to be for us to share our lives with you, the viewers and the listeners and those who subscribe and follow us on the different platforms. We do want to share our lives with you because we have people in our lives and still have people in our lives who share their life with us. We're able to see and witness, the effects of them loving their wives and loving their husbands and being committed to their wives and being committed to their husbands and being able to see the fruits of that, 15, 20 years, later of them still being married, to this day. So,
and a happy, loving marriage, not just being married.
Yeah, that's true. A happy, loving marriage. So, with that being said, we come to the end of our podcast for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and wherever else podcasts can be found. So definitely, thank you for tuning in with us today. Until next time, peace.